Hello, everyone. This is Natalie here. I'm happy to be with you and talking today about how to stop losing our temper with our own kids, which I know most of you parents who are listening to me have this burning question all the time. How, if I'm aware that I'm reacting strongly towards my kids' behaviors, how do I stop that? Because we all know that afterwards, after having these strong reactions of our yelling, screaming, or punishing, it doesn't feel good for us and it doesn't feel good for our children. So that's what I'll be talking today on this subject. So welcome. And if you don't know me, my name is Natalie and I have three kids myself, three boys. And everything that I'm going to talk about today, I've experienced them and I'm still experiencing some of those. And I've learned quite a bit over the years. My oldest is now 14, turning 15 soon. So on my own journey of how I saw myself reacting to certain things that were upsetting me for no particular reason, and I wouldn't say for no particular reason, but I couldn't understand why I was reacting so strongly towards, pushed me to study what was going on within myself, and I've learned a lot on emotions and why I'm being triggered, why I'm getting upset, what is going on, and also I've learned how to change those reactions. And that's what I'll be sharing with you today. So, and I'm here as well to tell you that you can change that and it doesn't have to take a long time. It doesn't, you don't have to be in therapy for years and years to learn how to change that, because I know all of you parents are very busy and you don't have the time or the luxury to spend years to understand yourself, and that it is possible to do it in a much faster time if you're ready to do this work that I will share with you towards the end. So stay tuned for all of this. So we all know that we've lost our call with our kids at some point, and we may still be experiencing that as parents, because simply there are days where it's too much for us to bear. And we can feel it physically through our bodies. Our bodies can't handle it anymore. Often we say, if there's one more thing that happens that I need to handle, it's going to be impossible for me. And often it is impossible. And why is it impossible is that why is getting to the top that we can't add something else anymore? It is our emotions. When we're suppressing our emotions, how we're feeling, and we've been suppressing them maybe for days, for some people it's weeks, for some people it's been years of really suppressing emotions and not being able to allow themselves to feel them and to release them, which how emotions are meant to be. When we suppress them, just like having a bottle of water and there's now water to the top and we keep pouring, and it will eventually overflow. And when it overflows, this is where we find ourselves strongly reacting to external circumstances that are upsetting us. And with our children, it can be their behaviors, mostly their behaviors, what they're doing, how they're responding to us as well, and even their own emotions that are coming up when they're having tantrums and acting out that we are not able to handle. So our body is not meant to hold on to emotions. So what are emotions? And I have a more extensive training on what emotions are. And please, if you are in my group, you can just go check the group and you will find the training on emotions. But simply, emotions are letting us know if our thoughts, what we're thinking and believing about what's going on right now, if that's true, if that's aligned. When we feel positive emotion, then it is true. But when we are experiencing negative emotions, such as rage, anger, sadness, frustration, and all of that, most of the time it's not true. What we're thinking and believing about what's going on right now in front of us is not true. But the part of the mind that is perceiving what's going on as something that we're taking personally is what's making us feel those negative emotions. So when emotions are bottled up and they're not being processed regularly and being released, that's when we erupt like a volcano. Something that your son or daughter does, boom, you will calm one moment, and the next, as you see them with that behavior, it sends you onto the other direction, and you're no longer calm, but you're very reactive. So when we experience strong eruptive emotions, they usually take over our bodies, right? Like think about the last time you were really angry, or you had rage, you just stormed from something that happened, or you felt really hurt, or you were very sad, frustrated, feeling lonely, and so on. That emotion is flooding your entire being. It takes over you in that moment where you can't even think logically. What you're feeling is this overwhelming sensation in the body and the feeling. And yes, there are some perceptions and thoughts and beliefs that are in the background all over this. Because why do we feel that overwhelming sensation? Well, remember the bottle and the emotions that have been suppressed, and we keep pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. In this moment, when we are getting really upset, we are not only experiencing what is going on right now in front of us. In that moment, we are also remembering everything else that made us feel the same way in the past. So everything else that were related to the same belief that we are having in this very moment, right? So for instance, if your child is not listening to you, for instance, and you've asked them to do something, they don't listen. Now you get very angry in this very moment, while you're not just experiencing this moment with your child not listening about something you're telling them in this very moment. You're also remembering all the other times when you perceived that somebody was not listening to you. And when people are not listening to you, what is it that you're believing when they don't listen? And often it's painful when we experience that. Maybe for some of us, it's when somebody is not listening. For somebody else, it could be when our kids are screaming, and the screaming brings up something very intense in us that's reminding us of what did we experience as children when it came to like hearing this alarming screams and noises. So we are often being reminded of open past wounds, meaning what happened in the past that brought up the same kind of emotions for you is not resolved. It's still very raw. And that's why when something happens in the present that reminds us of something that has happened in the past to us, because it's very raw, it will come up with these very strong emotions. And guess what? All these strong emotions that are related, that's been suppressed, are coming up. And that's why it's coming up with full force. And that's why you're reacting, not that you're choosing to react this way. Because I know for myself, I'm not logically choosing to react this way. And I've talked to many parents as well who also acknowledges that they are not choosing logically to respond in this way or to react in this way. It's just happening. It's happening subconsciously. Because subconsciously, in the part of the mind, the subconscious mind that stores all our beliefs and memories, we are remembering the past. We are remembering memories of the past that are still very raw and unresolved for us. So I promised that I would give you an example. So if you can follow this example, usually you will go through the same process with another example of something that your children or your child does that really triggers you and that you're trying very, very hard to learn not to react the way you react and instead choose to respond from a better place of calmness, of being grounded. So here's this example. And often little kids and sometimes older kids as well, they spill food and they make a big mess. And that's what children do. Usually they're messy, most of them. But now if a parent would instantly get angry when, say, the child is spilling milk or food all over the floor, or they're eating and they're making a big mess, and the parent look at that mess, they feel the anger starting to happen. And then their reaction would be yelling, blaming, or even punishing the child sometimes. They will remove the child from the kitchen or, send them to their room or whatever it is. So they yell, blame, complain, punish. In that moment, there's that visceral feeling that took over that parent that makes them react this way. While when the parent is yelling, shouting, complaining to the child or punishing the child, guess what? The child is now really scared because all they did was exploring their food. As they're exploring their food, they're making the mess. And then boom, suddenly there's this anger coming from the parent. And the child can feel it. And the child in that moment feels very threatened and know that the connection with the parent now is broken in that very moment. And the child doesn't know what to do, so the child cries. Usually that's what our children do. When they don't know how to respond to something, they don't know how to handle it, they will have a tantrum. They will cry. They will get upset. Well, when the child cries now, it makes the parent more angry because the parent is already feeling so much anger, so much of that strong emotion that they can't handle. And now the child is crying, and that increases their own emotion of anger because it's on top of theirs now. Now they have to feel that the child is also stressed emotionally. And what do we have? We have a big mess. And I've been there. I know how that feels. And I'm sure you've been there and know how that feels when both the parent and the child are dysregulated. We both are having those emotions taking over our bodies. And if we don't know how to address them, well, guess what? It's a big mess. And if we continue engaging with our children, the emotions gets even bigger and bigger and bigger, and vice versa. Our children cries even more because now they feel very unsafe and they really don't know what to do in those moments, because they usually turn to us as parents to see what is it that the parent does, and they can learn from that. But if we're dysregulated, we're not going to be able to help them. So here's what's happening in your body and in your mind when these kind of situations come up. So for you, it can be not a messy place. It could be your children not listening to you, or they're talking back to you, or a number of things that can upset you. Well, in this case, for instance, when the parent is experiencing the mess, what may be happening is that as parents, we all know we have so many roles. We have so many things to care for, to take care of as an adult. So often we are already feeling overwhelmed as it is, just to take care of our kids, to take care of finances, our jobs, our career, the house, and so on. Now, perhaps this parent just finished cleaning the house, for instance. And let's go with this example. The parent just finished cleaning the house, and he or she feels really good about that. Because do we feel good when we, for those of us who like a clean space, is that when we were little, when we were kids ourselves, we've learned that what makes mom and dad happy is a clean house, is a clean space. When the space is clean, mom and dad are happy. So when mom and dad are happy, what happens is that our needs are met. They're calm with us. They have more patience with us. They can listen to us. They can help us do certain things. They are there to comfort us if we get hurt. This is what happens when they're happy, and they're usually happy when the space is clean. This is what perhaps this parent witnessed as a child. And so happy mom and dad means children's needs are met. And when children's needs are met, they feel safe. Well, what is the belief that the child is developing right now? Well, simply put, a clean environment equals safety. Remember the child, and I've said that many, many times in my past videos. So I'm going to repeat that again. A child's brain is not fully developed until they're in the mid-20s. When they are young, the brain is still developing. So they do not have access to logically think about things. They watch what we do as parents. They see what makes us happy and what doesn't make us happy. They see what is it that happens when their needs are being met and what happens when their needs are not being met. And their simplistic developing mind as a child just come up with very simple meaning. Mom and dad are happy when their environment are clean, when the house is clean. When the house is messy, they usually yell, punish us. So a clean environment then will make me feel safe. It's very simplistic for them. When there is a mess now, it becomes a trigger. Why? Because for that parent whose belief about clean environment equals safety, that's what they've learned from a very young age. Now when they see a mess, it triggers them. It activates their autonomic nervous system, the part of our nervous system that is kind of filtering, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And if it is a mess, that's a trigger, so therefore it is a bad thing to our system. It sounds the alarm. It's saying this is unsafe. When there's messes, it is unsafe. And when it is unsafe, guess what? That parent feels all the emotions of what it was like to feel unsafe. Maybe there's fear there, there's anger, and if all these emotions starts to come up. So reminding of them of the pain that they felt as a child when they were messy, perhaps. We know now, children are messy. That's how they learn. They're not tidy. They learn through the mess. So when we were messy, what happened when we were little? Were we allowed to play with the mess and it was okay for our parents, or was it not? And if it wasn't, then what is the message that we got that form our beliefs as when it comes to the environment being messy or not? So in that moment, if for a parent for whom messiness equals not being safe, they're feeling all these emotions when they were little as well. When these emotions are coming up for a parent, guess what? If they haven't learned how to process these emotions and they haven't processed them for years, the only way when these emotions are coming up will be expressed is through projecting. That's when we get angry at our children and we start to blame them and we say, you made the mess, which makes me angry. Which in this moment, yeah, perhaps you made the mess, but me being angry, that doesn't have anything to do with the child. It has to do with his past experiences. The anger was already there. Whenever I experience something messy, it's reminding me of what happened in the past when I was messy, perhaps. And maybe I was yelled at, and that made me angry because I knew it wasn't my fault, but nonetheless, I got yelled at, I got punished, but I was not able to express that. And that's what's coming up. So I hope this is kind of making sense. If it doesn't, please do put it in the comments or send me a question. I'll be happy to answer them for you. So then it becomes a vicious cycle that's passed on to our children. When we see something messy, we automatically get angry, we react towards our kids, and our kids are witnessing that and learning from this whole cycle. And that's what we've learned. And until we break this cycle and we resolve what is it that was going on within us, we're going to continue the cycle. And then our kids learn from that, and then they react as well towards their kids in that same way. If I ask you, how many times, if you have even one child or multiple children, you saw your child reacting the same way as you do, and you're like, whoa, like they're doing the same thing that I usually do, because they're witnessing it, and that's what they're learning. And until we can witness something different to them, it's going to stay with them. They're going to continue that habit, just like what happened with us. So learning to change our own reaction will actually benefit our children, because then what we will mirror to them is something different when there's a mess or whatever else that usually upsets you. So now I'm going to share this step towards managing your triggers and emotions. And hopefully this example that I just went through with you makes some sense to you, because that's the loop that goes on. And now, if you have a pen and paper, you can write some notes as we go through the steps towards how we can manage the triggers and emotions. It's like a framework that you can start to at least do the first few steps. And the other steps may be a little bit more challenging that you can do later. So the first one is to know your trigger. What usually upsets you? What makes you lose your temper with your kids? What is it that they do or they don't do that usually make you lose your temper? For some people, it could be just hearing our kids screaming, the tantrums, reluctance to cooperate with us. What is it? What are these behaviors of our kids that usually upset us? And it happens often enough. It maybe happens once a week, more than once a week. It can happen multiple times throughout the month, but it's very similar whenever it happens, kind of the same thing. And we know it because we usually say the same thing back to them. We respond or we react in the same way as well. The second step is to name the most common emotion that usually erupts. So when we are reacting strongly, what is the emotion that comes up? Oh, if we're yelling, most likely anger, it could be rage as well, frustration. It could be fear that is making us also react. What is it for you? Name that emotion. The third step is, what are the visceral sensations that you feel in your body? So you can close your eyes. Maybe that's not very, it's not coming up with some of you right away. You can close your eyes and remember, if you know the emotion that usually erupts from you, remember the last time you experienced that emotion. And maybe it's with your kids, or it could have been with your partner or somebody else as well. But follow the emotion that you know that comes out of you. And see if it's anger, for instance. Where do you feel that anger? When you are angry, for instance, how do you know you're angry? Perhaps you feel heat in your body. You start to get hot when you're starting to get angry. or your jaw starts to tighten up. Or maybe you start to feel a burn in your stomach. So noticing what are the visceral sensations that usually are taking place in your body. And from there, you can stay there, like even if you're remembering the last time you experienced that emotion, what would happen if you took a pause and just acknowledge to yourself that you are getting upset? So that's number 4. When feeling those visceral sensations in the body, take a pause and acknowledge them. And maybe say to yourself, I am getting angry right now. I am scared right now. I am sad right now. Whatever it is for you. And maybe in order to take that pause, you have to walk away from the situation if you can. If another adult can step in the room if you have little kids. And you can take a pause to breathe, perhaps, and do whatever you need to do to acknowledge how you're feeling. Step number 5, tell yourself that everything will be okay. So maybe you witness this big mess that your children have done, and look at the big mess and tell yourself it's going to be fine. It's not the end of the world. It is a big mess. I don't really like it, but it's going to be okay. I can handle it. Or if your child is having a tantrum right now, and I don't know what to do, I can just hug her. Even if I don't know what to say, I can just hug her and she will calm down. Or maybe my child just said something really hurtful to me. Just acknowledging that it was hurtful. But know that you can handle it. You don't have to take it in a negative way. You can address it. And even help your child to know that the way they expressed what they did was hurtful, and so they can learn from that, for instance. So if you can do those first 5 steps, you'll get to the point where you're not reacting anymore. Because if you can pause, the pause is the first step to not replicating the same reactions that you used to in the past. So if you got so far, pat yourself and congratulate yourself, because now you've changed the way you are responding. You're no longer reacting. And now step number 6, what needs to happen is to reflect on the thoughts and beliefs that you have about the situation. So say for that same situation, the example I gave you, When your child has made a big mess, they spilled food or they broke something or whatever it is that happened, what were your immediate thoughts? And maybe what are the beliefs about what is happening in front of you? For instance, it could be when I see a big mess, I just get triggered because I'm thinking now there's something else to clean. Now there's more stuff for me to do. And where do those thoughts and beliefs come from? Where did you learn that? Could be our children are not listening to us. When they're not listening, they're screaming, and you get upset. What are you believing when they're not listening? And how does that reflect on you? What are you believing about the situation, but also about yourself? So getting to those beliefs are important, because in order to change our reactions in the long term, we need to change those beliefs that come up for us, something that we're believing that may not necessarily is true, and most of the time are not true. And that's why we're experiencing those negative emotions. And that part can be a little bit tricky, not easy to do. And that's what I help people with usually, is to uncover those limiting beliefs and help them understand where they come from, how to reframe them and change them, so that the next time, say, your child spills food, you're not taking it the same way you used to, because you changed the belief about what is happening right now. My child's just having an accident. It's not about all the other times when I spilled food and I got yelled at. I got punished for it, and I felt this way, and I believed this about myself, that I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, that I'm a loser, and so on, whatever was coming up, those beliefs. If you change those beliefs, then you change the emotions that comes up, and you can change your reactions to being more able to respond rather than react to the situation. So getting help to do this is very helpful and very effective. And there are very efficient modalities, proven modalities that have worked for me and for others as well. And we do access the mind and the body to do that work using our own faculties. And it's very efficient, and it doesn't take a long time. Usually most of my clients work with me for about 90 days. And that's enough to have a big shift in understanding themselves, uncovering those beliefs, changing those beliefs, and be able to respond better with their kids, and guiding their kids even to learn how to regulate their emotions. Because if we can do it as parents, our children are just watching and learning from us. They will learn it. Our children are great copycats. They will learn from us. But we have to set the example. So this is exactly what I help my clients do, and in a very much more detailed, going more in depth, because everybody's experiences are different. So what I'm going to share with you right now is that next week I have an amazing offer that I will put out in the group. And I want you to have first access to that offer, because the reason that why I started this group in the first place is to help parents who have experienced, who are experiencing what I've experienced in the past, to not having to spend years and money on talk therapy, trying to understand yourself just by talking, in order to be able to be better parents, in order for us to have a better relationship with our children, and for us to be more peaceful in our day-to-day lives. Because for me, yes, it took me years to study and learn about my own triggers and emotions, and I did go through talk therapy. That took me 2 years. But the modalities that I practice now, that I've studied, actually don't have to take 2 years. It actually takes 90 days, around there, for us parents to start to switch our response to our kids' behaviors or anything else that's triggering us. And if I have done it for myself, you can do it. And I've helped many, many parents do the same. So I know it's possible, and I know it's effective, and I know it works. I wouldn't be here telling you that without this strong conviction that if that's what you want to change the way you respond to your children, and maybe you've worked on it, it's been a while, and you still find yourself at the same place, reacting the same way, then I have good news for you. Because the method that I use is very, very effective. So yeah, I want to share that with you, and I want to offer that. And I will guide you and support you, and it's all done one-on-one, which is incredible, because with this kind of inner work, the one-on-one support is very effective also, and very nurturing, and this is what we need to heal our past wounds, our past open wounds. And it's very powerful, because not only it will transform your parenting journey, but it will also transform your children's lives. And you are wanting to do this work perhaps because maybe your own parents didn't do their work. Maybe they felt the same way, but they didn't know what to do. But now that you're aware that there is a way to work through that, why not? Why not give it a try? And it's not even a try, because when you do this work, I guarantee you, it will transform you. It will transform the way you parent. It will also transform your kids. So I'm talking from my personal experience and the experiences of other parents. And if you're called to do this work with me, stay tuned for all the details that's going to come in the group. I will post them. And so if you want to learn more about it, be sure to respond to those posts that it will be out there very soon in the group. So watch out for them. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being present with me. If you have any questions, again, feel free to send me a message. I'll be happy to answer them. But for now, keep doing what you're doing, and keep improving, keep learning so you can transform. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon.